Check Podcasts.
Hi, I'm Bruce Williams. I'm the CEO of the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to Chamber Chats, happening as always in the podcasting studios of Czech Television, one of our chamber champions. Would like to acknowledge to begin with that I live and work in the unceded ancestral territory of the Lekwungen-speaking nations, in particular the Songhees and the Esquimalt. Chamber Chats is made possible by the support of Island Savings, a division of First West Credit Union. So at the Chamber right now, on our staff roster of 11 people, 5 of them either have been or currently are co-op students from Camosun and UVic. That's pretty substantial. That's my value statement for co-op. We want to talk more about it today and help you better understand how you can enhance your own workforce by being involved with the co-op program. And joining me to talk about that, Dr. Kevin Hall, the President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Victoria, and Dr. Lane Trotter, who is the President of Camosun College. So Lane, I'm going to begin with you. There's my statement on the value of co-op. Tell me about things that you hear from people that are co-op employers.
Well, what co-op does is it blends theory and practice, and it allows students to gain that real-world experience working with employers. For employers, it provides a great opportunity to help a young person on their journey. Sometimes we have older students these days as well, but it helps them on their journey. So we've been doing this for a long, long time, and co-op is a huge way of making sure that we can provide students with those skills to make sure that employers get the people that they need.
And Kevin, I mean, that's exactly what it is. As Lane said, we're in a position now, we need workforce. We need workers in our economy right now. And this is basically a trial period, right, for people to take a look at each other's culture and their skills and work together in a cooperative manner. Tell me what you've heard about it.
Yeah, absolutely, Bruce. And I think it's important what you said. It's a trial. It's a trial on both sides, right? It's a trial by the employer to have a look at the student's attributes and skills. It's a trial by the student to see whether they fit into this type of workplace. We hear from students that they're really excited about, how they put what they've learned in the classroom into practice. How does it sort of map? And, are they learning the right stuff? It also gives them an opportunity, I think, to, have different people teach them because, in fact, the students are continuing to learn during a co-op. They're learning from their employers and always putting another face in front of a learning opportunity is a great thing.
It's
I
kind
think, of course, it makes great connections. It builds their resume. It makes connections with business industry, and let's not forget the not-for-profits that a lot of our students go into.
Yeah, because the student gets a chance to experience the culture of the organization, and they can learn how it aligns with them, or for that matter, Kevin, maybe it doesn't align with them, and they learn that.
Yeah, we're hearing more and more today from people who are trying to hire. And as you know, during this pandemic, it's tough to hire for any organization, any sector. We're finding a lot of people saying to us, it's almost like being interviewed by the students now. They're saying, what do you stand for, around amongst the SDGs? How do you feel about this issue? And sometimes students walk away and say, you know what, I actually don't want to work in this company. It's a very different way of hiring compared to what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, that whole supply and demand thing. There are some programs and some faculties that are more involved in co-op than others. Lane, I'm going to go back to you for this. I think many eyes are on Camosun to create things like trades workforce and technology workforce. Tell me about the departments and the faculties at Camosun that are most involved with co-op.
Well, absolutely. 85% of students at Camosun College get some form of work experience, which we're proud of. But for our co-op programs, areas such as art and science, our business programs, hospitality and management, sports and exercise education, of course, our technology programs offer this. And that's technology, including engineering, technology, and computer science. So those provide the students with that opportunity to go out, work with an employer, come back, integrating what they've learned in employment, make a little bit of money along the way, and they sometimes make up to $3,100 a month, and that then helps them with those living costs, which is important. And as Dr. Hall indicated, it also lets the student know who is the employer that they're after. That is this the right type of career for them? So again, this amazing opportunity on both sides, and being able to facilitate that is fantastic. And we've been doing it since the 1970s. So it works well.
We're going to come back to the money thing in just a couple of minutes to talk about how employers can source funding to hire co-op students. But Dr. Kevin Hall, back to you. What parts of UVic are most engaged in co-op, the ones that are sort of, if you will, the most common or the most often used?
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. Virtually all of our departments and faculties, in fact, and one of the interesting facts is UVic has the second biggest co-op program of universities in the country, which is something I absolutely didn't know when I came here to become the president. And I'm absolutely amazed at how many students that we place. Really popular right now, of course, is, following the pandemic, is anything in health and health
Mm.
sciences, computer science. We've got a lot of students going out in commerce. They go out into business. They're looking at everything from business planning to looking at international marketing opportunity and sales. Engineering, of course, all disciplines of engineering. It's mandatory part of our program for engineering to actually have a co-op placement. So, of course, that's a natural one. But even on the social science and humanities side, the fine arts side, we've got quite a few students going out working with the not-for-profits, working with community-based organizations, looking at everything from marketing research, digital marketing, digital media, etc.
There must be some experiences that you've heard about that are unique, that are just such an exceptional circumstance where a student was connected with an employer. Kevin, anything stand out in your mind as being that sort of unique, stellar, cool
Well, I could,
opportunity?
could, could probably give you 100, Bruce. And one that comes to mind for me that's really important is, we have quite a few students going out to work for a local accounting company, Desange and Work.
Hmm.
They, in fact, 30% of their staff now are UVic alumni, and their staff is about 30 people. 11 of those started their career as co-op with the firm. And the students that come back from working with them go, this has been an amazing learning experience. In addition to getting paid to work, so that's going to help you with the bills, they come back saying, wow, to actually look at how this is done in the real world has really enhanced my interest in the program, but it's also enhanced the way that I learn. And they come back and they start mentoring other students in the program who haven't gone out on their co-op yet. And so I think that's a really cool, sort of double-edged benefit from going out on the co-op.
Yeah, interesting point about Dusange and Work. The Work is Chris Work, who is the vice chair of the chamber board. So it all comes around. Lane Trotter, Lane Trotter at Camosun. Any sort of unique opportunities you'd like to talk about through Camosun? There again, those really cool matchups, those really cool co-op opportunities.
Well, one of our students, Madeline Beach, actually won the National Cooperative Education Work Integrated Learning, what's called CWIL Student of the Year Award for College and Work Integrated Learning. And it's the country's highest recognition for student performance in a work integrated learning or co-op setting. And this is what Madeline's employer, Red Brick, said. They said Madeline revamped our partnership program, partner stack engagement by well over 1,000%.
Whoa.
Her contributions were well above and beyond what we expected from a co-op. So you think about that 1,000%. So again, it's that finding the right student with the right employer, and then the synergy that happens is amazing. And we have so many of those kind of stories. It's amazing. And another young person, Matthew Gix, also won the Association Cooperative Education Student Award in the college category last year. And again, what they've done for students or for employers, and what employers do for our students is amazing.
Yeah. So we talked a moment ago about the money that's available to pay these students. There are ways that employers, and for that matter, students, can source that money. I want to talk about that next. Our chamber chat today is all about the co-op program through Camosun and the University of Victoria. Our guests today are the presidents of those institutions, Dr. Kevin Hall, President and Vice Chancellor of UVic, and Dr. Lane Trotter is the president of Camosun College. So if a student and an employer get together and decide, Kevin Hall, that they want to have that arrangement, money can be sourced for the employer to pay that student. Tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely, Bruce. There's a number of provincial and federal programs available to employers that pay often 50% of the wages of the student. In fact, in some cases more. And applying through the funding partners, through Camosun and UVic, is a pretty simple process. Both of our websites have detailed information about how to go about applying for these sources of funds. And this is great if you're a company with lots of money. But we also have some funds set aside for not-for-profits and for some of the local community and municipal groups. So there is money available from our institutions to help sponsor some of these co-op students. If anybody's interested, there was a webinar put on in June
Mhm.
between Camosun and UVic, and so you can find a recording on the chamber website. In fact, so the chamber has that as a repository. So I would just encourage people to go on and have a look. And so, getting somebody to come into your workforce that brings certain skills and attributes and a bit of diversity of thought, um, when you only have to pay 50 cents on the dollar, is a pretty good way to fill a gap. And I think it's a good way to fill a gap during times when you're really busy and you just need that extra little bit of horsepower to do the work you need to do. But it's also a good time when you're going through a bit of a recession, because you can bring in somebody that is gaining experience, but could bring something considerable to your organization for a fairly good rate, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, that financial support is another reason why this is also worthy of doing, that's for sure. And Dr. Lane Trotter, there are people at Camosun that can help employers source that, right?
Absolutely. Our career lab, with our amazing employees here, would be pleased to help. So if you reach out to us, as Dr. Hall said, through our websites, you can link into us and we'll make sure we provide that information, so that employers can find out how to talk to us and we can put them in touch or work with them to source that funding for our students. As I mentioned earlier, $3,100 per month is the average for our students on a co-op term. And that makes a huge difference in somebody who's studying and having to pay the costs that are associated with finding housing, et cetera. And again, at a 4.1% unemployment rate right now, co-op is a great way to be looking at finding that future employee. And our students, as Dr. Hull indicated earlier, are also interviewing employers to find the right fit as well, because that's so important these days.
As I mentioned at the beginning, at the chamber right now, we have 5 people who are either current or past co-op students that came through the chamber. I can't imagine that not ever happening. I can't imagine us not being a part of co-op, and we encourage our members to do the same thing. So I took a look at the chamber job board, which we have on our website, where again you can find that webinar about sourcing financing for a co-op opportunity. It's victoriachamber.ca, and we were happy to facilitate that through UVic and Camosun. So on the job board right now, here's what people are looking for: finance administrator, HR, director of finance, chief administrative officer, trades positions, marketing, retail management and support, drivers, customer service and hospitality, commercial banking, childcare, workplace safety officer, crane operators, cooks, and engineers. You both offer curriculum that align with that. So Dr. Kevin Hall, will go back to you and say this is another opportunity where people can access the possibility of hiring people that are studying the areas that they're trying to find employment for.
Yeah, absolutely, Bruce. I think one of the key things is also to recognize that, as a university, we are very connected to our local community, and we, can tweak and adjust our programs as we do to meet the requirements of the workforce. And so that's a really important piece around the feedback we get from co-op students sometimes is, have you thought about adding this or that to the training that you're giving at the university? And so, it's really hard to establish a brand new program with all the rigor you have to go through with the province, et cetera. But in fact, to tweak a program to make sure you're putting the right and relevant skills for the current job market is an easy thing for us to do, and that's something we do on a regular basis. I think that list of jobs you just gave, of course, it is very significant, and for us, last year we placed about 4,400 students in co-op, but that was at 1,400 organizations in the country, over 50% in the CRD area. And so when you think about that, that's 700 or so companies in the CRD that are taking advantage of employing the students through a co-op experience. And that's a big chunk of the business here. And so I think it does, as you say, it represents the breadth and the diversity of the types of jobs that are open on the market today.
Yeah, Dr. Lane Trotter, same thing. This whole sort of spectrum on the chamber job board alone indicates that the spectrum of education, therefore the co-op opportunities that Camosun provides, are very valuable and relevant right now.
Yeah, our career lab works with employers, as I mentioned, and we're trying to make sure that we get students out to find those right experiences, to integrate the learning and practice so that we get a better student when they come back. And when they graduate, the employers will get a far, far better prepared um, um, individual to hire who will be productive day one. And working with our employers, we're developing new programs all the time. One coming on board in September is our new cybersecurity program, a diploma program that's going to deal with that issue of ensuring that our systems, our networks are safe from hacking, because we hear about that all the time with malware attacks, et cetera. And again, that's a response to employers telling us this is what we need. and then us developing programs and going through those processes associated with it. And so, again, these are the things that we do to make sure that we stay connected with our community. On our apprenticeship side, which they're already working for employers, the demand is so high that when people come out of our pre-apprenticeship 1-year programs, they get credit for their first year apprenticeship, and they're getting hired all over the place. So on the island, where 85% of our people are at, but also around the province.
And Bruce, this is a good time for us to take control of the interview from you. And I think,
Go for it.
one thing I did want to say, and this is where you and the viewers and your chamber people can help us, is of course we also, both of our institutions have large international student populations.
Yeah.
We're at about 4,000 international students, and we do struggle with international student co-op placements. And international students, for example, bring a great diversity of thought into our region, a great diversity into the region. And, many of them are interested in staying in the region or staying in Canada after their degrees to add to the workforce. And sometimes it's, it is tough to get international students in the co-op placements. And I just, ask all of your people that are in the chamber to really think about giving an international student an opportunity as well. So we had about 700 international students placed last year, which is great. And we'd love to do more of that. But some of our students go, they struggle in the workplace because perhaps their language isn't as good as ours. Well, as good as yours. I won't say mine's any good,
The
but I do
proficiency
think
in
that's
English.
something with, it'd be great if we could all recognize also the additional attributes that some of the international students bring in. And we've had some great success with local companies, with our international students.
Yeah, actually, let's talk more about that next year. We're talking today on Chamber Chats with UVic President Dr. Kevin Hall and the Camosun President Dr. Lane Trotter. When you talk about international students, I was going to bring the point that very often organizations, companies, whatever it might be, get an infusion of the perspective and culture of younger people that are coming in. But Kevin, you make a good point about the international part of it too. As we all need to know more about the world around us. We need to be able to learn on a two-way thing. And Lane Trotter, there's a huge international presence at Camosun too, right?
Right. We have right now 1,300 international students. That was as of January, and we'll have about 1,800 as of September. And one of the things why international is so important is when the provinces forecast a shortage of 1 million workers between 2021 and 2031, we're not going to be able to fill that with our domestic capacity. And so that's 1 million jobs. You think about that, 100,000 jobs a year. And they're projecting of those openings, 111,000 in technology, 85,000 in trades, and to continue to grow our economy, to support the type of things that we want in healthcare, we need international students coming in to help fill that. And the best way to acculturate them to Canada is through Canadian education, either through Camosun or the University of Victoria. Again, both institutions work very well together. And right now, that shortage, we're going to need to fill that. And 34% of achieving that is going to need to be met, at least through immigration.
There was a time when these two institutions, Camosun and Camosun and UVic and Royal Roads, we'll just mention that for just to drop the name there. But there was a time when there was probably a perception of competition for students, or at least there was a perception of them doing and offering a different educational experience. But the flow between the two, Kevin Hall, between UVic and Camosun, is quite profound. It really is.
Yeah, I think, one of the great things about Vancouver Island has been the connectivity of the higher education institutions for years. And I think it's held up as an exemplar for the BC government and the Ministry of Education. And so, in the last academic year, for example, there were about 1,100 Camosun students who moved into UVic. And in the other way, there's about 310 students or so moving to Camosun. Quite often moving from Camosun into degree programs at UVic, but also there's a completion program for our graduates from university who go develop the skills in a post-degree diploma at Camosun. And so I think it's a great relationship that's been going on for ages. And of course we continue to hope to build that. And perhaps again, this is where some of your Kiwanis Club members, or are you the business chamber? I can't remember.
What day is it and what interview am I doing right now?
Well, no, Perhaps this is again where some of your members
Yeah.
could get some experience from both the Camosun side and the UVic side, and perhaps look at some of these students and hire them through their progression from their college studies into university or vice versa.
Yeah, well, as I keep saying, we're huge cheerleaders for the co-op program because of the enhancement and the enrichment it brings to the chamber. That's for sure. When we talk about moving forward, though, in addressing skill sets and things that are needed, Lane Trotter, you spoke about, for example, increasing education in cybersecurity. What other kinds of areas of study are emerging? Which ones are growing right now, just showing their necessity?
We continue to expand out in information technology, in the trades, in healthcare, in the sports industry, because these are the areas that are critically important. But what we're also finding is the need for early childhood education in various formats, because people are needing to make sure that if both parents are working, that there's some form of support for their children.
Yeah, the chamber is very actively advocating with government for an increase in the number of spaces available to train ECE people and support for the facilities where they would work too. Dr. Kevin Hall, what are the areas now that are emerging and growing within curriculum at UVic that align with things
Yeah,
like Lane just talked about?
so the province has certainly identified some of its direction by creating 2,000 new tech seats that'll be rolled out over the next couple of years, and so that'll be engineering and data science, computer science. But of course, post-pandemic, we're seeing an absolute demand for
No
health-related
healthcare, yeah.
disciplines, right? Biotechnology, medicine, health information science, life science, and I think the interest of both the public and the private sector in trying to push forward a health agenda post-COVID is really going to dominate where we're seeing some huge demands over the next 10 years. Elaine mentioned the government's predictions of a shortage of 1 million people in certain skilled areas. And these are skill sets that are going to have to fit into those 1,000 jobs. And so we're seeing a shift on how we're teaching. And that's one of the great things about co-op. As I said earlier, we use the feedback we get from our employers that hire our co-op students to kind of tweak around the edges some of these core skills and attributes that they like to see in the graduates.
As I said in the beginning, the co-op program is an amazing support for business. The chamber fully endorses and uses it all the time. We encourage you to do the same thing. Gentlemen, we very much appreciate your valuable time and insight into this, and I'm sure we'll catch up again very soon. Dr. Kevin Hall is the President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Victoria, one of our chamber champions, and Dr. Lane Trotter is the President of Camosun College. Thank you both for your time today,
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bruce.
and we'll see you again for another Chamber Chat.